A couple of days ago, I talked about my experience with Cardfight Division Clash of Kings Invitational tournament, and I basically went over everything about the matchups, what type of deck I played, how everything went, and I showcased the final match that I played in round 5. But I didn't really went in depth about the specific cards that I use within my deck list and how the decks perform and how they utilize, and that is something that we're going to discuss in the next coming videos, as today I will dive into my main deck, and the day after tomorrow I will dive into my hook deck or my second deck that was Royal Paladin. And the reason I'm not gonna cover it tomorrow is because we're going to get a special live stream, and I believe they're gonna reveal another sub archetype or another band for Bang Dream, so I probably have to cover that in a separate video for that day. So that's probably the case that I'm gonna postpone the second deck profile. But with that explained, let's dive directly in the deck profile for Nova Grappler's Perfect Raizer build that I took to Cardfight Division Clash of Kings Invitational. So let's dive into it. So here we have the deck list that I used for my Nova Grappler Raizer build for the Clash of Kings Invitational that I used as my main deck. So this was the deck that I took as the first deck in every single round. So this was the deck that I probably was the most experienced with, or at least the most confident with, that I'm at least going to win. So I can then go into my second deck and have hopefully 2 matches with my second deck to get 1 win out of it so I could win the round. That was my idea behind this. And I of course took Raizers, and this is pretty a standard build for your typical Raizer list, but there are some differences with some usual lists, so I will go over the cards one by one and then explain to why I picked them and how they are performing together. And then after that I'm going to showcase a exhibition match that you guys can see firsthand how I utilize this deck and how it performs in actual combat. So for the grade 1 lineup, it's pretty standard, as I have 4 PGs, which is a obvious include, and then I filled it up with 8 Raizers and then 1 non-Raizer. And that's what you're going to see in most lineup here, is that I'm filled it up with as maximum Raizers as possible, so I have the highest consistency of getting enough Raizers into the soul for my Perfect Raizer to gain the power and as well as the crit. And I utilize, of course, 4 copies of Burst Raizer. This skill might not look all too much, but actually this is a very powerful skill in the right circumstances, as if I have enough counterblast left, I can turn this into either a 9k attacker, which can eliminate interceptors, but I can also turn it into an 11k or 10k booster, which with other units can make magic numbers that can even hit over defensive trigger if I combine it with stand triggers because of my starter that is Battle Raizer, but also I utilize Ashura Kaiser for a potential backup right target. So with Burst Raizer and in the mix, I then can make more use of my recent potential and then actually hit over defense trigger and destroy my opponent's hand size if they have a lot of PGs there. Then of course I've followed up with the Raizer Custom, which is pretty generic, a booster, 12k attacker potentially. And then the final pick that I put in is not the 8k that a lot of people do. I chose for the Claydon mechanic, and that's what you're going to see in multiple cards here, that I really emphasis on counter charging. And the reason why I do that is of course for Burst Raizer to have more fires for him, but also for potentially Kirawa for more draw potential, also, and of course for Genocide Jack or Brutal Jack for his restrain ability. But more importantly, I also utilize it for my Perfect Raizer on play skill, as it costs 2 counterblast, and I want to basically create a Battle Raizer each and every single turn, so I can, for one, have boosters and I can draw into more cards, potentially my PGs, but also I can fill the deck with more triggers, so I have more potential of hitting an actual trigger, which is actually pretty strong here. So that's the reason why I went for more count charging. Then for the grade 2 lineup, I run 1 Brutal Jack. I would personally run 2, but I only have 1, so that's why it's a single copy. The other one is basically with Hungry Dumpty, that's why I have a single copy of Hungry Dumpty, another counter charger. But if I have 2 Brutal Jacks, then I will replace the Hungry Dumpty with a second Brutal Jack. Then for the support grade 3, we got 3 copies of Magical Girl Kira. This is very obvious, it's my draw engine for mid to late game if I get rushed or I have extra counterblast left, so I can hopefully draw into my pieces. And the last are of course 4 copies of Trans Raizer, which is a free plus in the correct circumstances, which can really nice to flood the board. But also I run 4 copies of High Power Raizer Custom. I see a lot of people discussing to drop it to maybe 2 or 3 copies, but I honestly really like this card for a number of reasons, and more importantly, this allows me to attack with the Vanguard without boosting so I can keep my Battle Raizer on the field, because itself becomes a 16k unit without being boosted, which is actually pretty nice for an early game aggression if I need to be aggressive, because I can call a unit to the rearguard column, that's a 9k, that can hit. My opponent gets a non-defensive, but goes up a number, but then I can still hit with my high power custom Raizer, even if they sit on something like an 11k brutal jack, because they are 16 and I'm also 16. But in another scenario, if I utilize the booster of Battle Raizer, then it becomes a 19k column. And that's a really strong number, because if my opponent's sitting on a 9k body and I attacked him 3 times, he got no defensive. That means at the second attack he's 19, so my 19k column can still hit, so I can deal him 3 damage in one go. But in another scenario, if I only call 1 rearguard, I attack, he gets a defensive, he goes from 9 to 19, I can still utilize the booster and then still hit him for an extra damage. So that's the reason why I like my high power custom Raizer, and that's why I also run it at 4 copies, besides the reason that I want to have as many Raizers to fill up the soul. Then for the grade 3 lineup, this is pretty generic. I run 4 Ashura Kaisers. This is my main backup right target if I cannot set up for a Perfect Raizer or I cannot draw my Perfect Raizer. So I can then go into this thing and still pressure with my extra triggers and my extra stance. So I can actually deal like attack for 4, maybe 5 times and pressure those Perfect Guards. This is also a reason why I like high pyro custom Raizer, because if I know I need to go into an Ashura Kaiser turn, then I can utilize the 16k body in the grade 2 turn to apply some extra pressure so I can put my opponent to high damage, so the restanding capability of Ashura Kaiser becomes that more deadly. Then for the one-off, I run 1 Ultimate Life from Cosmo Lord. The reason I run one-off is because it's the only card that I have, only 1 copy. This is really nice in combination with Perfect Raizer, because before I shove everything into the soul, I can utilize its skill to rest all those units so he gets a lot of power, and then I can shove them all in the soul so I get more value out of those cards that then disappear. So that's actually a pretty nice combo with Cosmo Lord, so I can set up really high columns here. Then 4 copies, which are also my heals, are of course Muscle Hercules. Again, the counter charge here that can allow me to get more value out of my counter blast, and also prevent me from being damaged tonight if my opponent already gave me 2 damage, because if I get 2 damage, I have enough counter blast to do my things. And then the final card here is of course the main ace unit of the deck, that is Perfect Raizer. This card swings in really hard, can be a beast, but also can generate cards. The only issue is with this card, it needs a lot of setup. If I do not get the Raizers in my soul by normal writing, it probably is not worth it to minus yourself 4 cards to get the skill off, unless you're really lucky with some Trans Raizers, as you might call Trans Raizer, that calls another Trans Raizer, that calls another Raizer. Yeah, then it's a whole different story, because then you didn't actually minus that much from hand, and then you can go wham. So the basic premise of this particular build is get as much Raizers in your soul, and then utilize Perfect Raizer to swing for game with the extra crit, and then with your grade 3s and grade 2s, snipe their interceptors, so your Vanguard can always hit face. But we of course have some backup options here with Ashura Kaiser that can then pressure our opponent if things go sour, or we know that we don't get value out of our Perfect Raizer anymore. Because if you know that your opponent has 3 to 4 PGs in hand, then a Perfect Raizer doesn't mean all that much anymore as you keep stalling them on 4 damage or maybe 3 damage and you aren't actively killing them. So probably if you have Ashura Kaiser in your hand in that particular scenario, you probably might be better off to just riding Ashura Kaiser and then pressuring that way, because attacking them 4 or 5 times while they have multiple PGs in hands are way more effective than just attacking them once with a high number and a crit, because it will take you multiple turns, which also means your opponent has multiple turns to kill you. And this deck lacks defensive options for multiple reasons. Your grade 2s are very low powered. You have 7k, 8k, means they're very susceptible to being destroyed even by grade 1s. So it's pretty easy for your opponent to get rid of your interceptors and destroying your face. Also, hand advantage is really low in this deck. You have some draw potential, but not a lot. And of course, the fact that you need to put multiple cards in the soul means you're actively minusing yourself just for the Perfect Raizer ability. And a lot of the times, those are actually extra copies of grade 2s, which isn't that ideal. So there are some negative points to this deck, and especially Kagero is one of its toughest matchups, as they can retire your stuff. But we're going to go in a match and hopefully get up to a good exhibition match, and maybe against Kagero, so you guys have a better understanding what I mean with some of that is probably one of the toughest matchups this deck actually has. Okay, so we're up against a Nova Grappler mirror match, so this could either go into an actual mirror match, or we're up against Blaus, which is also a pretty interesting matchup. Well, our opening hand isn't all that great, but I will keep my high power custom price because it's the perfect right target, and hopefully get into better grade 1s and a grade 3 I can draw into later game. Well, that's basically perfect. We got the Perfect Raizer, we got the grade 1, and we're basically done. Okay, so we're up against the other Nova Grappler build, the Kluger build, the Blau Kluger build. So that's really interesting. Also draw into my custom Raizer, which is actually perfect. So that's basically the ideal right target. I want to go from a custom Raizer into a high power custom Raizer into a perfect Raizer. That's basically the ideal right chain where you want to go for. Because it allows you to hit for hard and do all kinds of things, and it allows you to keep your Trans Raizer and Burst Raizer into your hand for the situation where you actually need them. Okay, so this is a build that also plays Shout, which is interesting. Already drawn into a heal, so that's pretty optimistic for me. But he did get the right target, so he's in a good position. A second heal gone, so it's not ideal for my partner here. This is also ideal that he gets his triggers early on, so if he goes into his Blau Kluger Stern, Blau Kluger turn, he doesn't get all the infinite restunts that he wants to. Also get 2 PGs, which is actually pretty ideal. Besides this, I think I'm gonna sit back and chill, because he's an 8k body, which means I need to hit something good with my Trans Raizer, which isn't guaranteed. So I'm just gonna do that. Attack for 16. And that's all I'm gonna get. He gets another draw. Actually don't mind that all that much in this situation, because it's another Stern Blau Kluger and another trigger gone. So let's see what it's gonna do. Probably right into the Blau Kluger. Yep, he got the Blau Kluger. He gets the 12k intercept. Okay, this can be a little bit annoying. So defensive doesn't do anything for me here. Yep. Okay, there goes my single play hole mechanic. Not the worst situation here. Another PG, so I have 3 PGs at this point. Let's see, if I write, I can do... Yeah, I'm gonna do this. I think I'm gonna remove the 2 Battle Raizers in this situation, because I have a Trans Raizer and a Burst Raizer, which allows me to remove this 12 interceptor, which I need to overcome here. So if I do it any other way, I cannot guarantee it unless I hit another good unit with my Trans Raizer, which I don't want to bet on. So I'm just gonna remove the 2 starters. So I'm gonna put them in the soul, get the crit. Then call the Trans Raizer, see what I'm going to get. Lottery, spin! We get another Burst Raizer. Okay, so this allows me to keep the Burst Raizer in my hand just in case, which is pretty nice, so don't mind me because there's no reason to call the Burst Raizer now. So we're gonna go, remove the interceptor, and we're gonna shoot him to 3 damage. And from this point onward, I'm gonna pressure his PGs. Probably hit 1 or 2 triggers here. Oh, 10k, that's nice. Oh, another the counter charger, which is also pretty good. The Hungry Dumpty. So my bet is that he's got a right Stern Blau Kluger, otherwise he's in a pretty dire situation. Yeah, he got the Stern Blau Kluger. He's already seen 4 triggers, 2 draws, 2 heals. I'm guessing he's running at the 9 draws build. He does not have the counter charger, which is actually pretty interesting and pretty good for me here. The Kira will probably do nothing here, otherwise he cannot withstand his Vanguard. Unless he wants to go for the draw. He doesn't get 1 trigger. He gets the draw, so he's probably gonna restand here. Which, in this situation, I do not mind, actually. I get a draw, which means his rearguard will not hit anymore, and I get my... Jesus, I got all PGs in my hand. In some scenario, this is very good, but I'm not so sure if I like it in this situation. He removes 2 grade 1s, so it means he doesn't have that many triggers in his hand. He does shoot me to 5. I still got all my heals in deck. Okay, getting a Trans Raizer is actually pretty good here. I need to hit something. I hit a Kira, which is really good here. Okay, So now I can build my columns, remove his interceptors, and remove a PG from his hand as well. Yeah. I have no stands in deck because both stands went into my soul. Okay, another weird one, which is not a trigger, which is pretty good. Because I have a higher chance of triggering. Because I have like 11 triggers in deck. So I expect to hit some here. None. A draw, okay. Please do not draw on a heal. A draw on a draw. I'm fine with that. Yeah, there goes one PG. He also cannot restand his Vanguard. Not that it doesn't matter because he cannot hit anymore, but he also cannot use a Kira or something. So he goes to an Perfect Raizer, which I think is the best play here, because now he can potentially restand things. And he has multiple grade 3s in hand. Okay, so probably the last card is either a grade 3 or a PG. I'm gonna bet for a PG in this situation. There's also no grade 2, which is pretty good for me. Okay, no restand. No restand. Okay, this is really good. This is really fortunate for me. Because now I can pressure him next turn. That's a bit unfortunate, but it's fine. Alright, skip. Because I can still pressure with my Perfect Raizer. I'm gonna do this. Again, still no stands. This is 18k. It's 13. So I'm gonna go this, see if he gets a defensive. He doesn't get a defensive. I'm gonna go with the finger to pressure the PG. Okay, this is fortunate. Yep, expected that because I saw barely any triggers. Probably PG coming down now. Okay, now the question is, do I want to give him that damage? Because if I go into his rear, this thing cannot hit on his own. Because it needs to hit the Vanguard. He needs to get a trigger. I think I'm best off to going this because I can still kill him next turn anyways. So this forces him to get a good card to either get one of the attack hits. Get a PG. That's very fortunate. Now the question is... Yeah, I will survive. Because he can restand, but it cannot hit. And he needs to give the trigger to any of the units that allows to hit. But I have 2 PGs, so I basically cannot kill me this turn. He can reason and retire one of my rear guards, but that doesn't really matter in this situation. And the heal also doesn't work because I'm at 5 damage. And he has only 1 heal left in game, in deck, which basically means it's GG. He probably hopes that I don't have a PG, but I've drawn in all my PGs, which is pretty fortunate for me. So probably going to the Custom Raizer, yep. To be expected. And now we're gonna go for game, as we're gonna call down, right skip, call down the Kira, and then we basically can pressure him into the Vanguard face, and then Perfect Raizer. Because it doesn't really matter anymore at this point. Because if he gets the heal, I can still overcome it. And if he gets the heal now, that's pretty bad for him. So now I'll go for face and instantly win because he only has 1 heal, so he can never heal himself out. And I even heal to 4. So yeah, that's... And I get another, but this one won't activate because he's already at 5. And that's basically game here. So that's basically how the Perfect Raizer build in generally operates, but also my specific take on it with a bit more flexibility with a couple of cards with the Perfect Raizer, but also with more Raizers, so there's a higher consistency of getting all the Raizers in the soul. Because if you do not ride your Raizers, Perfect Raizer becomes a lot less consistent and a lot less powerful, or at least threatening because you're removing all the cards and advantage from your hand, which is the biggest weakness of this deck. So yeah, that's basically it for this deck profile. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of this Perfect Raizer deck list. Also, this is just a temporarily fix for how I want to do deck profiles for Zero videos, as I'm still figuring out how I want to do it. But in the coming days and weeks, when I start figuring things out, I'm gonna upgrade it, because you guys know it. Your boy is all about the top-notch quality here, so you're definitely gonna see some change with these deck profiles, how I'm gonna address it and approach it, but that's all for another day. As always, this video has been brought to you by our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/Vanguard Insider. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, then definitely subscribing, hitting the bell button to be updated for future videos, especially the next deck profile for Zero, where I go over my special good stuff Royal Paladin list that I took as my second deck to the Cardfight Vision Clash of Kings Invitational. But if you want to support us a bit more directly, you can simply go to our patreon.com/Vanguard Insider Patreon and support us today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I see you guys in the next one.